at Early English Government. We're getting done with our social structures unit, and let's take a look at some early English government. And in the title, it says some stuff that we use today. So let's look for some parallels of what's happening back then to what's happening in our world today. So first of all, setting up your notes, we have your vocabulary over here. You do have a quiz on Friday for sure this week. I canceled it last week. This week, you're going to definitely have one. You got 3 words from the other day, 4 words from today: common law, Magna Carta, Parliament, habeas corpus. We're going to use a simple little tree map. Unless you want to use Cornell notes, totally up to you. But we're going to take some notes on some vocab and some people that we're going to talk about, and then different aspects of this early English government that we're going to see. Your objective, you'll be presented with various aspects of early English government. You will compare those ideas to our government today and the idea of democracy. You will create a personal Magna Carta after you're done with this lesson. First of all, let's get started. You're going to have an interactive slide with this, but I did want to go over this in case you're missing it and you're not here during the presentation. But what type of government do we have here in the United States? Is it a republic? Is it a dynasty? Is it a kingdom? Or is it faith-based? So think about that for a minute. I hope you choose the right one. I hope you pick the one up here, because we are a republic. We are not a kingdom. We did start as a colony of the kingdom of England. And then after the Revolutionary War, we were no longer part of that. We are not a dynasty based. Our leaders are not picked based on their family. And we are also not faith based, even though there you can find a lot of maybe some faith-based ideas in our laws and things like that. We do have a separation of church and state, and our faith-based religions do not guide our political process. Now, what are some of the qualities of the United States government that you think make us unique? What are some things that make us unique or special, I guess? What are some things that happen in a democratic republic? Remember, we are a democracy, but we're a type of democracy, a democratic republic. Something big just happened at the beginning of November. That's something, that's still kind of in dispute right now. It still hasn't, not everything's been decided. So think about that to yourself when you're doing this live with us. You'll obviously put your answers down on the slide. Next, we're going to talk about King Henry II and the royal courts. So King Henry II brought consistency to England's legal system by sending royal judges to every part of the country. Early on, court decisions were made based on local traditions and previous rulings. So, different areas could govern in different ways. They could use different laws based on their area. This was called common law. The problem with that is you could be in one area and take one step out of that and step into a new area and be committing a crime, even if you were doing the same exact thing that wasn't a crime, or vice versa. The royal judges would change this in order to bring consistency to judgments throughout England. Royal law most likely made it so that people throughout England could receive equal treatment. So in the beginning, this was really kind of an idea of making a universal law throughout the land. This was in part to take also power away from the church. We're going to learn about that in our next unit, about the fight between the church and the kings in Europe. Look at these sources. Take a look at these sources. If you want to go deeper, go ahead and take a look at these two and read through them. What do you think the problem is with common law? Just think to yourself. You might want to add those thoughts into your notes. I stated it a little bit about, hey, if there's different laws, like for instance, if there's different laws in different counties. For instance, we are on the border of San Luis County and Santa Barbara County. And if the laws were completely different between the two, it might make things weird going back and forth between the two counties. King John, the same one that it is fictionally portrayed in the Robin Hood movies. You can watch this little video on your own. But King John actually did exist. And as you can imagine from before, the royal courts may have started off with the thought of being fair. However, the king was really trying to get all the power. And they made the kings really powerful. This meant that the royal courts were not independent of the king. So that's kind of a problem. You have courts that were run by the king, So, if you could imagine, the judges probably were going to do the bidding of whatever the king thought. So, that really gave the king a lot of power. This made the king feel just about unstoppable. And in that little video, if you want to watch it, you can see that kind of same attitude. King John, he decided he would tax his nobles all the time because he wanted to fight in different wars and do all these different things. That made the nobles upset, and they grew tired of King John and all his needless wars and wanting to collect all these taxes. And they demanded to be recognized for their rights. So what is one thing that King John did to anger the nobles? Did he treat everyone fairly? Did he spend money on wars? Or did he make his nephew the Pope? Well, hopefully this is the one that you chose. The Magna Carta. The Magna Carta is a document. The nobles in England developed a document called the Magna Carta. They forced King John II to sign it. It ensured rights, including these three rights. It ensured protection of the law. So the law was higher than the king. The king could manipulate the law. Everybody was governed by the law. It guaranteed trial by jury. So they couldn't just say, hey, you're convicted. You had to have a jury to convict you of a crime. And it stated that the king could not collect taxes without the approval of the nobles. So the nobles might have been all right with some of the taxes. However, they weren't all right with others. So they wanted a say in which taxes the king could collect. Initially, the document was only to help out the nobles, but it did help out everybody in the end. And it sounds a little bit like another document, something similar to, one that we might have in our own government. So let's think about that. What does it sound like? Something you probably talked about in 5th grade. You're going to talk about a lot in 8th grade. And there's always a lot of discussions. There's a ton of discussions going on with it right now. So which Magna Carta sounds a lot like, all right, Parliament. English nobles removed King Henry III from the throne after a broken agreement, and then they replaced him with a group of representatives called Parliament. This was broken up into two houses. We had the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Parliament limits the power of the king. For instance, no law can be passed by the king without approval of Parliament. Again, this might sound really familiar to some systems that we live in today, something that has, two houses and they legislate or pass laws. So just keep some thoughts about that. Name one of the two houses of Parliament, right? We have the House of Commons and the House of Lords. That's both of them. Habeas corpus. In the world today, many countries have independent judiciaries. These courts are independent from other branches of government. That means they hopefully are not influenced by any other branches of the government. They have the ability to block the government from passing laws that would violate citizens' rights. So they are independent of the government. In medieval England, one thing that may have started there is an idea called habeas corpus. And this states that people cannot be imprisoned unlawfully. In modern courts, habeas corpus requires authorities to provide legal proof why a person is being imprisoned. So they can't just scoop you up and take you and throw you into jail if there's no proof. If, you're holding a bag of money outside of a robbery scene and everybody's pointing at you saying that you did it, they can arrest you. If you're just walking by, they're not allowed to just scoop you up and arrest you just because. So habeas corpus means that they have to have legal proof that you committed a crime in order to be imprisoned. Finally, you're going to get instructions for this back on Google Classroom. You are going to create your own Magna Carta. You're going to do this either on your own or in a small group or in pairs, but you're going to create your own Magna Carta. This is going to be kind of your last assignment before we go to break. So that's it. We'll see you in class.